Welcome, dear listener, to Spirituality in the Brain. I'm Vanessa Anzalone, your host, and this segment is all about the latest findings on neuroscience and the teachings of Spiritism. Today, we're going to talk about a featured research in the website ScienceDaily.com, which says that inhibited children become anxious adults, examining the causes and effects of early shyness. This comes from research by researchers at Penn State University. As the summary says, they observed that the child who is inhibited when they are as young as 4 years old, they don't play alone or with others, they will become anxious adults. It's rare for a child, they say, to be clinically diagnosed with anxiety disorder prior to adolescence. As Dr. Paris Edgar says, kids aren't yet anxious, but they can have the temperament that may predispose them to become anxious. And when a behaviorally inhibited baby is exposed to a novel sensory information, it can be something as benign as one of those mobiles you put over the crib or a normal Jack in the Box. A lot of babies giggle and laugh. They think it's funny, but these babies are terrified. They cry and arch their backs. Their systems have just said danger, danger, dangers, she explains. Later predictors may include difficulty building relationships and in socializing with peers. Developmental psychologist Jerome Kagan, Paris Edgar's dissertation advisor at Harvard, was the first to identify behavioral inhibition in children as a potential indicator of anxiety to come. In 1984, Kagan and his student Cynthia Garcia Cole, who later became a professor at Brown University, co-authored 2 papers discussing behavioral inhibition in 21-month-old toddlers and in 4-year-old children. This is the first time the term behavioral inhibition appears in the literature. Kagan and Garcia Cole looked at the responses of their young subjects to an unfamiliar person or experience. Some children become quiet, cease the activity in which they are engaged, retreat to a familiar person, or withdraw from the field in which the unfamiliar event occurred. The children who responded this way were considered behaviorally inhibited. When Paris Edgar arrived at Harvard, she continued this line of research, working with Kagan and then with an earlier protege of Kagan's, Nathan Fox. By following subjects into their teens and beyond, the researchers were able to confirm the link between behavior inhibition in young children and anxiety later in life. Dear listener, though the research can tell us much more, including areas in the brain, as they say, the limbic system that is involved in this response, we would like to bridge it up with the teachings of Spiritism. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 14, item 9, St. Augustine the Spirit has a long dissertation about children and their behavior in adulthood. In Spiritism, as says St. Augustine, he says, and I quote, "From infancy, children manifest the good or evil instincts they have brought from their previous existence, and it is necessary that we apply ourselves to studying them. All evils have their origin in selfishness and pride, so watch out for the least signs that reveal the seeds of these vices and take care to combat them without waiting for them to put down deeper roots. Do as good gardeners who cut off the defective shoots as soon as they appear on the tree. If selfishness and pride are allowed to develop, do not be surprised if you are paid back later with ingratitude." Dear listener, what does it have to do with the research we just talked about? Science is day in, day out showing to us research like this, showing that traits in childhood are signs of personality traits that will develop later in life if we don't watch out. In this case, we're talking about something that is not evil. It's just, a fact. The child is shy, and then that may be a sign that this adult potentially can become anxious in adulthood. This is very important because nowadays many parents, we're not trained as parents, right? People don't do courses to become parents. As people enter parenthood, they rarely are aware of the fact that since the first breaths of the baby, you can identify behaviors, tendencies that will develop later. But this can only be observed if parents pay close attention to the behavior. So for example, if you have a small baby and let's say a 5-month-old baby, and you bring your baby to a social gathering, and your baby cries every time he sees people around, every time, not saying once or twice, but every time, becomes very avoiding the whole scenario. We need to pay attention because, of course, if the environment is aversive, it's a natural response, but the environment is very welcoming and friendly and the child is behaving in that way, we should not dismiss and simply say, oh, it's gonna change, maybe the baby's just fearful, or he likes the mom very much or the dad very much. No. Observe that this is something that this baby is manifesting as the spirit, the immortal spirit who carries a lot of baggage and is already showing its signs in the first months of life. Pay close attention. And as you pay close attention, make sure that you take action. And that's why we have therapists and other people to help out. Think about this, observe your children, and I would recommend write down, observe without judging. Write down, oh, today we went to a party and baby X behaved in this way. The next day we went to the supermarket, people approached to say hi, oh, how cute the baby is, and the baby avoided contact, didn't like, cried, or something like this. Or the reverse, liked the whole thing, was very, much at ease in the whole scenario, and put the observations down so you can put the pieces of the puzzle together as your baby is growing. And that's going to be very important to prevent emotional problems later in life. A lot of science tells us that you can observe these tendencies early on in babyhood or childhood. If you have any questions about this, please write to me at kardecradio.com. We have a contact form. I will be happy to listen from you. In the meantime, cherish the blessings of God in your life always.